Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar brought to you by Professional Parenting and Calgarys Child Magazine. And we bring you these webinars the third Thursday of every month at 8 o'clock. So if you want to mark it in your calendar now, it's there. So tonight's topic is one of my favorites. It's Sibling Rivalry Remedies. So if you have more than one child, it's great. You'll find lots of information here. And if you have one child, it's great too, because a lot of it applies to the normal jostling of children during play dates. So that's good too. So welcome everybody. My name is Judy Arnall. I'm a child development specialist, and I'm a bit of an idealist in that I am a certified family life educator. I've just been certified in the Brain Core Story by the Palex Foundation. And I also teach several parenting programs. I'm a PET instructor, and I teach the Alberta Health Services Positive Discipline and Terrific Toddlers. I've written a few books. My whole approach is absolutely non-punitive, whether it's parenting or education. It's all about staying calm and solving problems, which are absolutely normal in families and parenting. So I've written two books, Parenting with Patience, and that's all about getting calm. And then Discipline Without Distress is all about solving discipline issues in a respectful, kind way. And Plugged In Parenting is a DVD about all the issues digital families face these days and how to manage them. I have a new book out, almost, called Attachment Parenting Tips, Raising Toddlers to Teens. And it's a reference book. It's not theory, no opinions. It's just tips from my parenting groups on how to handle things respectfully and lots of good ideas. My books have been translated into several languages. And like I said, I teach two parenting courses, the Terrific Toddlers through Alberta Health Services that was developed by them, and the Parent Effectiveness Training, which is offered at the University of Calgary Continuing Education. And I'm a realist. I'm a mom of 5 kids, so we have definitely had our share. We have 18 years of sibling issues, and I will be sharing a lot of my experiences tonight handling those issues. So it's all good. It's if you hear noise in the background, I have all my kids home, and they're all playing on a team with Heroes of the Storm, which is a video game, and they're playing together, and it's them against the world. So they all get along, which is kind of nice. I have so much respect for anyone who works with children. I think parents need a tip jar on their kitchen table, teachers need a tip jar in their classrooms, and anyone who works with children need a tip jar. Some housekeeping things. This is copyright Professional Parenting 2018. This webinar is not meant to replace advice from your healthcare professional, and it's only for educational use. Its use may not, opinions represented here may not necessarily reflect those of Calgarys Child Magazine. I get my information from several sources: Alberta Health Services, Canadian Pediatric Society, Health Canada, Discipline Without Distress, Parent Effectiveness Training, Siblings Without Rivalry by Adele Faber and Elaine Maslish, and Loving Each One Best by Nancy Samalon. So let's look tonight at why siblings fight. When should parents jump in, and how can we create more peace at home? So let's look at what is sibling rivalry. What do we mean when we talk about that? It's the normal jostling of siblings for parents' love and attention. And that was written by Dr. Spock, who was a parenting expert way back when. And I love these quotes. Every child should be an only child in his parents' eyes, a unique person, one of a kind, by Carol and Andrew Kelladine. And Jean Ilsley Clark says, children will take 100% of your attention if you can give it. It's a basic need. And that is true absolutely as well. So conflicts in families is normal, Conflicts among siblings is absolutely normal. Every parent has it to some degree. I think the main point is how it is dealt with in the family can lay the foundation for future sibling harmony in relationships. So conflicts occur over fences between neighbors and over borders between countries, over cleaning up the kitchen, over cleaning up the environment, in the bedroom, in the boardroom, between people who love each other and people who hate each other. So conflicts is normal in anywhere there's a relationship. The other thing to keep in mind is you don't own your children's relationship with each other. At some point in time, they decide the parameters of their relationship. And yes, you have a huge effect on it, but ultimately, they own their relationship. These are my two kids heading to the bus, and my daughter's putting up with my son's antics. Your children are unique. They're in a different age and stage. Even if you have twins, they're in a different stage. Different genders, birth orders, temperaments, and personalities. And all those things play into how well they get along with each other. Temperament is big. I would say temperament matters more than age difference. So commonly, my children are 1 year apart, 2 years apart, 3 years apart, and 4 years apart. And that doesn't matter as much as their temperament, which is the intensity of their personality. So generally, 40% of all children are born easygoing, 30% are born slow to warm, and about 18 to 20% are born high need spirited. And it's on a continuum, but if you have easygoing children, they're going to have an easier time getting along with the spirited children. If you have two spirited children, you're going to run into quite a few more conflicts than the average relationship. Why is that? That's because of their temperament traits. One of those is persistence, sensitivity, intensity, first reaction, and mood. All those things factor into how well they get along with their siblings. So if they're in a fight and you have two spirited children, they're going to be very persistent with each other on who's right and who's wrong. And it's going to take a lot more effort to compromise. If they're high on that sensitivity, the slightest slight is going to tip them off. If they're intense, they're the drama queens. Oh, they lay their emotions out on the floor. When they're upset, you know about it. And their first reaction to change, if their sibling has borrowed something of theirs, wow, they overreact in our frame of mind because it is so intense for them. And their mood, they differ in their moods from day to day, minute to minute. So that can play into sibling relationships. So we often ask parents, everything's connected. So what are some qualities you wish to see in your child's relationships with each other as adults? And what are some sibling behaviors that are causing issues right now? You can see my fourth child's got this little crown that my oldest child made him. That's sweet. Babies of older kids really are very tolerant. And what we find is that you tend to get the same answers no matter where you ask this question. Parents want children to be loving towards each other and have good, solid relationships as adults. And that's good too. And common sibling behaviors right now are fighting over toys, getting in each other's faces, and just common nitpicky at each other. So how you deal with the behaviors now will often result in how you're going to shape their relationships down the road. So it's kind of good to have some targets there. Children need mutual respect of each other, and that's probably the bottom line of what you want to go for. You don't have to make your kids like each other, but you can have to insist on a level of respect and politeness in your family. So they can disagree, they can agree to disagree, but it has to be polite and respectful. And one thing to keep in mind is that fights are usually about feelings. It's never about the actual issue. So no matter which group I do, parents talk about how they have similar toys all around. And no matter what it is, the one toy both children are fighting over is the toy. They may have a lot of copies over, but both children want the same toy. So it's not about the toy. It's about the feelings, whether children need attention or they want to, they're just feeling that their sibling is annoying at that moment. It's about feelings. It's not about the toy. And the more feelings can be expressed in respectful ways, like language, the better the emotional health of the child and the emotional health of that sibling relationship. So it's almost like we have to allow kids to express their negative and positive feelings towards each other in order to let the good, positive ones come out too. So parents' short-run goals are often, stop fighting now. I don't care how, just stop. And long-run goals are, we want to create connection and belonging in the family, and we want to teach our kids social, character, and life skills. We want them to be assertive, to use communication to express themselves rather than hitting and biting and pushing, and to develop conflict resolution skills. That's our goal. There's a myth out there that in order to make kids feel better, do better, we have to make them feel bad. When in actuality, the more they feel better, the more they do better. So we always want to take a positive approach to a negative approach. So in my approach, in non-punitive discipline, we want to take a positive approach. We do not want to match negative behavior with punishment. And there's plenty of research out there that shows punishments don't stop the behavior. It puts a lid on it, drives it underground, but unless you turn down that heat under that pot of boiling over, you're not going to address the behavior. So it's better to get at the need or feelings of the child. There's lots of benefits to giving up punishments. I'm not going to cover this. I think I covered that in last month's webinar on discipline without distress. But children have more responsibility, fate control, and better social skills if they are practiced in communication, problem solving, and conflict resolution, and not in punishing. When we punish kids for not getting along with each other, we are showing them how to punish each other. And that's what kids do. Oftentimes, that accumulated underground resentments are in the form of punishment for slights or whatever they felt was unfair of in the past. So we all act to meet our needs. Kids do too. They're not waking up in the morning and thinking, let's see how I can really drive my sibling up the wall today. And they're not waking up in the morning thinking, how can I drive my parents crazy today? They are not that smart or manipulative. Most kids under age 6 or 7 just don't have the self-control to rein it in. So they're playing with a toy, someone comes and grabs their toy, their executive function is not kicking in, that self-control, so they react. They grab that toy back, or they push that child, or they bite or hit. And that gets better with age, but again, you don't expect sharing until at least past age 3 or 4, and you don't expect that level of self-control to use their words and not hit or punch or bite until way into the school age years. The other common theme here is that you don't have to treat all your children equally. Nobody is going to hold you to equality. If you try and make things super equal across the board, kids will examine every little infraction of non-equality and call you on it. So it's better to just say up front, we're not equal here. We give according to what everybody needs. and we give, everybody's going to get what they need, and it may not be the same thing at the same time. So throw that equal thing out the window. Unless it comes to Christmas gifts, you have to make those kind of equal. So let's look at the 4 reasons children fight. Fights, remember, fights are about feelings. There's 4 reasons: attention, boredom, real issues, and accumulated underground resentments. So, attention, what's that feeling there? Oh, okay, let's start with boredom. That feeling there is boredom. And if you're bored, what's better than to just pick at your brother and get a reaction, because that is really good entertainment and it passes time. So the thing you can do with boredom is redirect the kids. Just stop that, give somebody something to do, and don't punish it. Just, they're looking for something to do. Number 2, attention. And the feeling there is, I'm not counting. So again, you want to ignore fighting unless someone's going to get hurt, but give positive attention when they're not fighting. So notice when they're playing together, they're being good. Come in and say, wow, I so appreciate you sharing your Lego with your brother. Notice that cooperative behavior. And attention is so critical in those first 7 years. Children crave attention. And you may think, I give them all attention all day, and then kids crave more attention. And that is normal. As kids get older through the school age years, that need for attention does drop off until teen years, and they don't need a whole lot of attention then. But give them lots of one-on-one time. If you have a bad week, your child's behaving really, really badly, take them out. Spend some time. Go for a walk, go for a play date. You're not rewarding bad behavior, you're meeting a need. And that need is attention. If you have to hire a babysitter, it's worth it. So keep in mind that children, the more we want them to be dependent, we have to meet their dependency needs, and then they become independent. So you can see here, and there are different stages all through childhood. So a lot of parents have that second baby in the first child is a toddler or preschool, and they're going through this new stage of development where they are pretty needy, and then you're busy with a new baby, and that's where a lot of sibling happens. And it's it gets better, and it looks different through the school age and the teen years. We often see teenagers just don't talk or interact with a new baby in the family, or with their younger sibling, especially if there's more than 6 years age difference. It's like raising 2 single only children. So to make kids more independent, we have to meet their needs for dependency. We have to pull them in, care for them, love them, hug them, and then they become more independent. We don't make them independent by pushing them away and saying, you're a big boy, you can do this. If they're not getting dressed, and normally they can get dressed, but they're not going to because you have a new baby, dress them. Give them the attention they need, and they will become more independent. Number 3 is issues. So these are real issues. They're fighting over the computer, the iPad, the Lego, the dolls, the toys. Who gets the favorite car seat? Those are real issues. So the best way to deal with that is to acknowledge your feelings. You feel frustrated because you want to play with that toy all by yourself, and your brother's hounding you for it. You're feeling angry because you want to turn. Acknowledge their feelings. It doesn't mean you agree with their feelings. It just means you validate and accept them where they're at. Avoid punishment and try and work through some ways. Teach compromise, teach problem solving, come up with rules together. So there's lots of ways to deal with issues. If they're hitting, biting, say, no, we don't bite. Reinforce those pathways. No, we don't treat people that way. Keep teaching, but don't think that they're going to get it under age 4. You're teaching, 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 teaching. One day they're going to get it. So show them how to express their anger. Maybe they could go to the bathroom and scream into the toilet, and you could flush their anger down the toilet. Show them ways that is okay. We call this the yes list. Have a yes list of ways to express anger. And just keep repeating, repeating, repeating. Teach them how to compromise. Sometimes it's taking turns, trading, redirecting, using a timer to compartmentalize out time. 4 and up, you can teach children how to use their I statements. I feel angry when I'm waiting for a turn and you're not giving it to me, right? You want to teach kids the language of assertiveness, the I statements, and those are tools they can use the rest of their life with coaches, teachers, future mother-in-laws. However, you want to teach them problem solving. Sometimes there's tricks to decide who gets what. Rock, paper, scissors is a really good way. Picking a number between 1 and 10, who gets the toy first, flipping a coin, or making a schedule. When my kids were little, we only had 1 computer in the house, and they were constantly fighting over computer time. So we did all these things. Usually the person that got it first got the shortest term. So keep in mind, as a parent, you're not the judge and jury. You're not in the middle between children. You are helping them solve their relationship problems. And that's your job when they're little. And it's great because you got lots of practice. You have a lot of times to practice. But when they're 16 and they're upset with each other, you can say, all right, you guys know how to work this out. Solve the problem. Use your I messages. Active listen to each other. Work it out. Okay, at this point, I'm going to show you a video of sibling fighting and how I active listen to each person and then feedback what I hear so that they could come up with some solutions together. And then I take one and distract them so the other can finish their turn. And believe me, some days I did this 20 times a day. But it's like an RESP. You're putting the process in the bank, the brain bank. And by the time the kids get older, they can start working that out themselves. So let's show you this. Here, switch. It doesn't come up in my PowerPoint, so I have to kind of just go over here. Sorry.
Come on, you've been on at the game all morning. I would really like a turn.
But wait, I'm almost at this level and I'm stuck. Come on, just let me try one more time.
There's always one more level. Come on, seriously.
Please, just 2 more minutes.
It's always 2 more minutes.
No, come on. I just got on.
Girls. You've been on all.
Girls, okay, what's happening? She wants the game.
You never listen.
Okay, so you're trying to make another level and you're angry because she wants a turn. Yes, then she demands it. And Gwen, you're a little frustrated because you've been waiting all morning and you want a turn now.
She always ignores me. It's no fair.
Okay, so you're both feeling frustrated and angry. Can we just come up with some solutions to solve this problem? Because you both want to play the game.
We should just turn it off and nobody plays.
Well, we could turn it off. That would be one solution. Can you think of any others?
Well, I could go do something else. And then as soon as you finish the level, you call me and we switch immediately, okay?
Okay, promise I'll give it to you as soon as I get there.
Great.
Well, that's great. I have to go bake cookies. You want to come bake cookies?
Sure.
Okay, we'll do that.
Now, if only it was that easy. That's a very simplified version of active listening to both partners and trying to work it out. Let me just get rid of that. And some days you're doing that a lot. Where is my, there we go. So, but again, it is putting time into a very valuable relationship skill. Rather than punishing both kids and sending them to their room, which really doesn't teach them that connection, belonging, problem solving. Working out issues is one more example of how to teach them problem solving, and that's good. You also want to teach them I statements. So the more you use I statements, the more they will learn the language. I feel angry when I see chips all over the floor because it's a mess and needs to be cleaned up or it wrecks the carpet. That's an I statement. It has 3 parts: how you feel, what the behavior is, and the effect on you. And teaching kids to use their I statements with each other is really important. So let's say 2 children are fighting over a game and one child says, "You're a poopy head. I want the game and you're taking too much time." That is not a respectful I statement. But if they said, "I have been patient and I feel I'm not getting the game and I would like a turn," that is a language of respect. So giving them the words and coaching them how to talk to each other. Now, again, you can't really do this when they're 2 and a new. This comes more when they have language skills. So 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up. So again, by the time they're 16, you can say, "All right, you want to turn with the laundry machine? Use your I statement." And you listen to what they need. And you use their I statement and you listen. So it comes naturally. The last one is underground resentment. And this is what occurs. This is this constant under the radar nitpicking at each other, trying to get it at each other without parents seeing. You often see this when real issues, the number 3, is not dealt with fairly. When number 3 is punishment is used, then you see the kids trying to get back at each other for their punishment underground. So how you can counteract this is notice their good behavior. Don't label or compare them. Don't say, "Oh, you're always the compromising one and you're always the tough one." Don't label them. Attack the issue, not the child. Play up their individual accomplishments. Don't punish. Problem solve instead. And accept their feelings and give attention. If you're doing all that, there's not much more you can do, really. One good skill to teach kids is there's only 3 ways of handling annoying people in life. Let's say you're on a plane and the person behind you is kicking your seat and it's starting to drive you bananas. You have 3 choices. You can leave. So you can ask the flight attendant to move you somewhere else. You can surrender. So you can say, "Oh, I'm going to deep breathe. I'm not going to let this bother me. I'm just going to let it go." Or you can stay and negotiate. So you can turn around to that seat person and use your I statements and say, "I feel," what could you say? "I feel upset when my seat is kicked because I'm trying to read my book or I'm trying to sleep." And leave it to them to figure out how to fix that for you. And that's what we call problem solving and negotiating. Now, they may say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that bothered you," and stop. So it may solve the problem. Or they may say, "Well, it's my seat, I can kick it if I want." And then you're left with leaving or surrendering, right? And in every situation in life, that's all people have is 3 ways to deal with things. So it's a good one to teach children. So one thing, when my kids are at the computer and both are trying to play a game and they're annoying each other, I say, "Okay, whoever is feeling the most annoyed, you have 3 choices. You can leave, you can stay and not let it bug you, or you can use your iMessage and try and problem solve that by negotiating." Okay, what's wrong with sending kids to timeout when they fight? Timeout is a bandage. It doesn't get at the real solutions. It doesn't teach communication, conflict resolution. It just gives everybody a chance to calm down. And honestly, the best way to calm down is to model it yourself. You take a timeout. You take one child or separate them. And what we call that is time in. It is just getting everybody calm before you do any negotiations. So time in is really good at teaching self-control. And also when little kids are hitting or biting or pushing each other, you really do have to step in. Letting little kids work it out when they don't have the skills or the executive function to work it out is not appropriate. Yes, you could expect that in school-age kids or teenagers, but not young kids. You have to teach them how to work out relationship issues. So time out is more meant as a punishment. Often it's to punish kids for their sibling fighting. Time in is to get kids to calm down. And time in can be with a parent. It can be in a place or with tools to help everyone calm down. It's not a punishment. I'm a little worried because our whole generation overuses time out. And we're raising a whole generation of kids that might be averse to taking a timeout because they've had it as a punishment in childhood. So timeout's a good thing. We want to teach them how to use it, how to take a break from someone when we're getting upset, and we don't want to use it as a punishment. So we want to use it as a calm down tool. Now, keep in mind, like I said before, ages 3 and up is where they're a little more conducive to sharing. Under age 3, children don't have that abstract concept of ownership, so it's very hard for them to share. Okay, how can you decide issues? Let me just go back to this slide. I also want to say that under age 3, kids don't really play well together. So for toddlers, you want to have a lot of toys, similar toys, and they still end up fighting over one or two. But around age 3 to 5, you notice that more cooperative play, associative play, where they're taking roles and they're imagining and making believe, and that's really, really good. So it's kind of nice to see. So what is compromise and collaboration? So compromise, this is conflict styles, and we all have our own unique style. Some of us are accommodators, some of us are avoiders, some of us are compromisers or collaborators. So accommodators are good when you have easygoing children. They always are the accommodators. Spirited kids are usually the competitors. So, and unassertive kids are usually the avoiders. And those are okay in little small amounts, but if that's the main conflict style, you want to help them develop a little more compromise and a little more collaboration. And that's good for long-term relationships. Compromise is giving half and half, and collaborating is really working together so everybody gets 100%. So let's look at compromise. In our house, we had this little bigger person button. It was a happy birthday button, and we colored it and put a new thingy on it. And the person who gave the most to resolve the conflict got to wear the button for the day. It's amazing how much that worked. It's so cheesy, but it worked. They loved it. They really worked for that. And collaboration is just basically problem solving, and that's for preschool and up. So when I ask parents, you have 1 orange and 2 children, how can you work that out? Both children want the whole orange. How do you work that out? So I get all kinds of answers from parents. And eventually I come up with, okay, you have to figure out what the children need with the orange. And that's the basis of problem solving. What you're meeting needs. You're not clinging to positions, you're meeting needs. And if one child needs the orange for making juice, and the other child needs the orange for making zest with the rind, then you can make it. You can make it work because you have 1 orange and 2 children, but they have different needs, and you're meeting both needs. And that's what we do in problem solving. So look at it like a table. Solutions are the top of the table, but the needs are what holds up our solutions and our positions. So problem solving is, the core of it is getting at the root of people's needs. What do children need? And coming up with some ideas picking the idea that meets both their needs and putting it into place. So it's not child against child or parent against child. It's working together against the problem. And that is a really good life skill. It helps to get kids thinking outside the box, thinking very creatively. Let's talk a bit about apologies. Tattling is to get someone into trouble. Telling is to get someone help. So when children are tattling, a lot of times I would just actively listen to that child and ignore it. If they're wanting to get someone help, definitely jump in and respond. So how can you create more peace at home? For toddlers, have lots of similar toys, definitely. Don't expect sharing until at least after age 3, and even then it's particularly hard for some kids. Acknowledge that it may be hard. Allow non-sharing. This was critical in our family. The more we gave kids the power to decide yes or no, they're going to share their things, the more they were likely to share. It's kind of, you got to trust it. It just works. It's that power and control that they need when they're preschoolers. And they quickly realize that if they give a bit, they get a bit. So if they are more conducive to sharing, they're going to get that back from their sibling too. When they're 5 and up, allow them to have own friends and play dates. And preschoolers to about age 8 tend to be sore losers in games. I remember that stage. We packed away all board games for a couple of years because guaranteed every time they played board games, they were sore losers. The board would go flying across the room. Now that the kids are teens and young adults, we have family board game every week, and they don't throw the board. It's a development of executive function and self-control. Teach the kids to ask for permission if they want to borrow things from each other. That's respectful, and it's good practice. And model respect. Ask permission to use their things, to borrow their toys, their things, their clothes, and it just creates that atmosphere of respect. Rethink group gifts. If the one year Santa brought a Nintendo for one child was the worst year of my life. Everybody wanted to play it, and the child was the king who got to decide who got the coveted time with his toy. Bad. If what we often do is, if we know there's a gift that all the kids are going to want to play, all the kids are going to want to share, we give it to each other as adults. So I would give it to my partner and say, this is his movie. He gets Frozen for Christmas or for his birthday. And then all the kids have to ask the adult permission. So it takes a bit of fighting. Give lots and lots of one-on-one time with each child. If you have to hire a babysitter, it is so worth it for better harmony in the next week. Give them choice in chores. Each child should have their own sanctuary. Maybe you don't have enough room to give them their own room, but their own space, whatever, their own little corner of the room, somewhere they can just call them their own. And allow each child to say no and respect their no. This is where consent really starts, is if you teach kids that their no matters very early, they will grow up expecting it. And that is where consent starts in the family. These are chores. I like this. Announcing I'm offended is basically telling the world you can't control your own emotions, so everyone else should do it for you. So teach kids that if they're offended, how can they resolve that for themselves? The best conflict tool ever is a hug. It starts from a place of compassion and love, and you work the problem from there. And it's good modeling. And remember, you can't teach kids in the moment. Too often as parents, we react in the moment, and we shouldn't. We should just get ourselves calm first, take a deep breath, and calm. Then you go into the situation, get them calm, separate them, just work on getting calm. You're not rewarding them, you're getting them to a place where they can calm down and start negotiating and working it out. And hugs just convey unconditional love. If everything works out and everybody gives a hug after, it's just nice. Very, very nice. So that when your kids are teens, they are best friends and they want to spend time together. These are my kids playing Dungeons and Dragons, and they have their moments. I mean, there were a lot of years with a lot of fights, but how you work it out can really affect how they get together in the later years and build those lifelong relationships. And the sibling relationship is lifelong. It's longer than parent-child, and it's longer than parent-partner. So it is a gift you're giving children, is how to work out relationships. And how they're worked out in the family is how they transfer those skills to their partner too. And keep in mind, brothers and sisters are friends that never have to go home. Well, at least until they're in their 20s. So work on building the bond. If you want more information, I teach the course Parent Effectiveness Training at the University of Calgary Continuing Education. It runs in fall and winter. Great book called Siblings Without Rivalry by Adele Faber and Elaine Maslish. It's a really old book, but so some parenting skills like active listening, I statements, problem solving never go out of fashion. Always, always useful in parenting. Loving Each One Best by Nancy Samalon is very, very helpful. I found that really, really helpful. Hold On to Your Kids by Gordon Neufeld, very good on developing attachment with each child. Positive Discipline by Joan Durant, and of course my books, Discipline Without Distress, Attachment Parenting Tips, and Parenting with Patience. So we are at the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and I hope this was useful. It's a quickie little summary of what to do in the trenches, and please join us next month for our webinar on understanding multiple intelligences. Every child is gifted. So 8 o'clock, third Thursday of the month. And at this point, I will open it up to questions for people. So thank you for joining us.